The lights in the great hall of Ouagadougou's Unity Pavilion dimmed, but no one whispered. The air was too heavy. Silence had grown fangs. A single spotlight snapped on. And there he was. President Ibrahim Traoré. His boots echoed as he climbed the platform, each step like a drumbeat in the chest of every official, minister, and military leader packed into the marble-floored assembly. Even the foreign diplomats seated in the gallery above shifted uncomfortably in their velvet chairs. Everyone in that hall had something to hide. And everyone knew, today, it might be dragged into the light. This wasn't a routine address. This was an execution without bullets. 3 days ago, a convoy meant for a rural medical supply drop had been ambushed. 7 soldiers died. 3 children, waiting in a schoolhouse for malaria tablets, were found shot in the head. Rebels had claimed responsibility, but Traoré knew better. The convoy route was secret. Only 10 people had access. Traoré stood tall at the center of the circular stage, dressed not in military regalia, but in a plain, dark gray shirt rolled to his elbows. His voice came low, calm, like a lion just before the pounce. There is a sickness in this country, he began, scanning the crowd without blinking. But it is not malaria. It is not poverty. It is not the rebels hiding in the bush. The sickness is here, wearing suits, saluting flags, drinking imported tea. Someone near the front shifted in his seat. A soft cough echoed behind him like a pistol slide being pulled back. Traoré didn't look away. And today, we name it. A current passed through the room. Hands gripped chair arms. A man near the back discreetly reached for his phone, only to find the signal dead. The entire complex had been jammed. No one was leaving, no one was calling out. They were sealed in this hall like a tomb. Traoré took a slow breath. I swore an oath to protect this nation. Not just its land. Its future. Its truth. He raised a folded piece of paper from his pocket. For months, my team intercepted whispers. Bank transfers. Private flights. Memos in diplomatic pouches. We built a puzzle with missing pieces. Last night, we completed it. The paper in his hand wasn't trembling, but some men in the audience were. I have here a list of names, he said. Officials. Commanders. Advisors. People I trusted. People you trusted. People who sold information to foreign powers. Who diverted aid. Who funneled weapons to those who kill our sons. Not for ideology. Not even for power. But for dollars. He let the words sit there. Someone let out a ragged exhale, loud enough to earn glances. Others avoided eye contact altogether. Traoré walked to the edge of the platform, looking directly into the eyes of Colonel Ouattara, the logistics head for regional transport. Colonel, he said, how did the rebels know the convoy's route? Ouattara's throat bobbed. I don't know, Mr. President. No? Even though you approved the route personally? Even though your cousin wired money from Accra 2 days before the attack? The colonel's face flushed red. He opened his mouth, but Traoré cut him off. We traced it, Colonel. Wire by wire. Transaction by transaction. Do not insult the dead with denial. There was no applause. No movement. Just cold, sharpened silence. Then, Traoré turned to the audience again. Let me tell you about Captain Sanu. He gestured behind him, where a screen lit up with the image of a young man in uniform, smiling with his daughter in his arms. He died protecting a truck full of medicine. He died thinking the state he served would never feed him to jackals. He died because someone in this room marked him for death. His voice cracked, just slightly. Enough for even his enemies to flinch. This is not a trial, Traoré continued. It is a reckoning. And before this night is over, every man and woman who betrayed this flag will hear their name spoken, not in secret, not in whispers, but here, in front of the nation. He stepped back. The lights in the room rose slowly, and with them, the temperature. People began to sweat. On the large screen behind him, another name appeared. Minister Hamidou Traoré, Internal Security. Gasps. One woman fainted. Traoré remained still. He didn't smile. He didn't shout. He simply waited, for the world to absorb what it just saw. And then, without explanation, the screen went black. He turned his gaze to the crowd once more and said 5 words. Let us begin with truth. The hall doors sealed with a click. Outside, armed guards took their positions. And inside, the real purge had just begun. Who else is on that list? What does Traoré know that they don't? And what will he do with the traitors once they're unmasked? The room wasn't breathing. Minister Traoré sat motionless in the second row, his mouth slightly agape, as if the charge hadn't reached his brain yet. A man who once commanded national intelligence now looked like a schoolboy caught with a matchbook in a gasoline shed. Traoré stared at him. Stand. The minister didn't move. Traoré didn't repeat himself. 2 guards emerged from the shadows at the edge of the stage. They didn't raise their rifles. They didn't need to. The shame alone made Traoré rise. He looked behind him, searching for someone to defend him. No one moved. This man, Traoré said, gave safe passage to rebel couriers in return for deposits made through a shell company in Dakar. In his capacity, he monitored our response teams, allowing rebels to slip away before arrests. The pattern held across 5 provinces. 5 years. I demand a hearing, Traoré began. You'll have one, Traoré said. Right now. With them. He pointed to the crowd. Tell them, he said. Convince them you are clean. Traoré's mouth opened. Closed. He turned toward the rows of faces. Dozens of colleagues, former allies. None met his eyes. He sat back down, his hand trembling as it clutched the armrest. Traoré nodded once to his guards. They stepped behind Traoré, no cuffs, no roughness. Just presence. Just pressure. Then the screen flashed again. General Sum, Western Command. A hiss sliced through the crowd like wind through dry grass. This one hurt. Sum was a legend. Decorated in Mali. Bloodied in the north. Beloved in the press. But Traoré's face was carved from iron. General, he said. Sum stood without being asked. His uniform was flawless. His jaw was clenched like a man who knew this day was always coming. I suppose you found the Geneva account, he said. Traoré gave a slow nod. And the arms manifests. You sold surplus rifles to smugglers who supplied our enemies. One of those rifles killed a child last month in Kaya. Don't give me the child, Sum snapped. This country has eaten its young for 50 years. You think I'm the disease? I'm just a symptom. Silence. But Traoré took a step forward. That's the difference between you and me, General. You accepted that sickness. I did not. Sum's nostrils flared. Then he smiled, wide and bitter. Then you'd better name them all, Mr. President. Because if you leave even one, they'll feast on your bones. Traoré looked at him for a long moment. I plan to name them all. The screen blinked again. Bintou Diallo, Minister of Finance. Another gasp. Audible whimpers now. Bintou, her face impassive, her lipstick perfect, adjusted her shawl and crossed her legs. President Traoré, she said coolly, you've built a stage, but don't mistake it for justice. You transferred embezzled foreign aid to a French investment fund in your daughter's name. She smiled faintly. And? Will they hang me for it? Traoré tilted his head. No. That's too clean. But the people will see your face. Your voice. Your arrogance. And when the next hospital runs dry, they'll remember it was you who bled it. Her expression cracked for a half-second, just long enough. A murmur rose from the crowd, thick with disbelief and betrayal. These weren't small players. These were pillars. People who had stood beside Traoré in press conferences. Who shook his hand in photographs. Who called him brother while plunging knives behind his back. Traoré turned his attention to the balcony where foreign observers sat stiffly. He spoke in English now. Some of you, he said, met with these ministers. Funded their projects. Took pictures. Clinked glasses. Tonight, you will write your reports. And you will mention this day. When Burkina Faso stopped pretending. No response. Just widened eyes. A few fingers typing furiously on silent phones. Then he turned to the stage again. I want everyone in this room to understand something, he said. The list is not complete. Not yet. Some of you think you are safe because your name is not here. But I am not finished. He held up a black flash drive. This holds intercepted recordings. Bank statements. Flight logs. Betrayals, coded in polite memos and diplomatic dinners. His voice dropped lower. Deadlier. Tomorrow morning, this will be played on national television. Someone in the far corner made a run for the door. A loud clang as it refused to open. Guards moved swiftly. The man was dragged back. He screamed something about family, about protection. No one listened. The hall had become a coffin of ambition. Traoré raised his hand. I do not want chaos, he said. But I will not protect the guilty. If you are loyal, stand beside me. If you are afraid, then you were never loyal at all. He walked slowly to the edge of the platform again, looking directly into the camera. I did not come into power to be safe, he said. I came to be dangerous. To those who harm this land. The lights dimmed again. The screen behind him read. Next name, midnight. Gasps. Panic. And for many, pure, suffocating dread. Because midnight was close. And no one knew if they'd survive it. What happens at midnight? Who's next? And what if someone refuses to wait for their name and makes a move before then? By the time the grand clock at the back of the Unity Pavilion struck 10:37 p.m., half the audience was silently unraveling. Phones remained dead. Doors were locked. Soldiers stood guard in pairs, rifles angled but not raised. The sense of imprisonment was psychological, no bars, no cells, just guilt and the ticking promise of exposure. Some whispered prayers. Others whispered names, trying to guess who would be next. But none whispered too loudly. Not here. Not tonight. Traoré sat quietly on the stage now, the folded paper gone, the flash drive resting on the podium like a live grenade. He didn't speak. He let the silence ripen. And in that silence, something finally snapped. A scream. Then a crash. 3 rows from the front, Minister Paul Yumiogo of Infrastructure lunged from his seat and grabbed Deputy Commander Tenga by the collar, slamming him into a pillar with a growl more animal than man. You told him. Yumiogo spat. You gave him the project files. I never, Tenga choked, struggling against the grip. I didn't know he. Traoré didn't move. Neither did his guards. The audience watched, some with pity, some with morbid curiosity, as a man long considered untouchable came undone. Yumiogo's hands trembled. You were in the room when we approved the bidding scam. You're going to drag me down. Paul, Traoré's voice echoed like a rifle crack. Enough. The minister froze. I hadn't named you yet, Traoré said softly. But now you've done it for me. Gasps rippled across the chamber. Some people exhaled in relief. Others inhaled sharply, realizing their own time might be nearer than expected. Yumiogo's shoulders slumped. You set this up, he muttered. You're not exposing traitors. You're watching them reveal themselves. Traoré stood. Exactly. The screen flickered back to life. Paul Yumiogo, Minister of Infrastructure. And then. Tenga Ibra, Deputy Commander, Urban Security. Another ripple. This time, quieter. Deadlier. Tenga's face blanched. No. I didn't. Traoré's voice sharpened. You ordered the police to stand down during the October riots. While government buildings burned, you were at a private villa owned by one of our enemies. Tenga looked like he might faint. But Traoré wasn't finished. He stepped down from the stage and walked the aisles slowly, boots heavy, deliberate. You thought I wouldn't find the drone footage, he said. You thought the power cuts meant I couldn't hear your calls. But while you were watching the fire, I was listening. Traoré stopped in the center of the aisle, flanked by rows of officials, many now drenched in sweat. Some of you thought I was weak because I listened more than I spoke, he said. But it is you who were loud. You bragged in backrooms. Toasted in embassies. You didn't whisper your treason, you declared it in confidence. He raised the flash drive again. Confidence is fragile, he said. Especially when built on the lie that the president is blind. Someone clapped. One pair of hands. Slow. Deliberate. Traoré turned. In the back row, a tall figure in dark civilian clothes rose. Colonel Bako. The man was a legend in intelligence circles. Retired 2 years ago. Quietly. Too quietly. I underestimated you, Bako said with a sly smile. You've set the table well. Fear is an excellent seasoning. Traoré's eyes narrowed. You're not on the list, he said. No, Bako replied, taking a few steps forward. Because I'm not a traitor. And yet here you stand. Bako's smile didn't waver. You're purging the system, Ibrahim. That's admirable. But what happens when you run out of enemies? When the silence grows louder than the gunshots? What do you rule then? I rule truth, Traoré replied. Bako nodded slowly. Then you should know it. The leak on the convoy wasn't from any of those people you named. It came from inside your war room. Traoré's fists tightened. Say it clearly, he said. I mean, Bako said, eyes gleaming, you have a traitor closer than you think. One who knows everything. Who has access to your movements. One who hasn't been named, because they haven't been caught yet. Gasps again. Panic. Some began checking over their shoulders. Bako raised a small device in his hand, shaped like a car key fob. Do you think you're the only one who prepared? Guards moved. Too late. A pop, then blackout. Total darkness. Shouts. Footsteps. A gunshot. Then another. The room erupted in chaos. Screams from the balconies. Chairs overturned. Something crashed. The stench of fear now physical, sweat, gunpowder, blood. And then. The backup generator kicked in. Lights blazed. And Traoré was gone. So was Bako. All that remained was the flash drive, still sitting on the podium, untouched. And a new message blinking on the screen. Midnight changed everything. Who is the real traitor inside Traoré's war room? Where did Bako and Traoré vanish to, and why did they leave the flash drive behind? Colonel Bako didn't expect to wake up tied to a chair in a room colder than betrayal. He blinked hard. The light above buzzed, a single bulb swinging slightly on its wire. The walls were unpainted concrete. The silence here was dense. Heavy. Somewhere beneath the Unity Pavilion. Across from him sat Ibrahim Traoré. Calm. Quiet. A glass of untouched water in front of him. Bako's lips were cracked. If this is how you treat veterans, I should have stayed dead. Traoré leaned forward. If you were dead, our soldiers wouldn't have bled on your payroll. You can't prove that. I don't have to, Traoré said. You proved it yourself. On camera. Bako froze. There was no blackout, Traoré continued. No chaos. No escape. We shut off the lights to reveal something. He turned a monitor toward Bako. Footage played. Infrared thermal imaging. Every official in the hall glowed in white outlines. Every movement. Every sound. Crystal clear. Bako saw himself. Saw the exact moment he activated the disruption device. Saw the guards chase a decoy. Saw Traoré step into the shadow and vanish through a back door, cool as wind before a monsoon. This wasn't a trap I walked into, Bako murmured. It was one I stepped over. Deliberately, Traoré said. The screen now showed a man in a polished blue suit. Young. Fit. Wide-eyed. He leaned into a phone during the fake blackout. Bako blinked. That's your press advisor. Traoré said. He's the leak. He passed intel directly to your network. Weekly. Including convoy routes. He's been under surveillance for 6 months. You knew. I needed you to think you still had control, Traoré said. To come out of hiding. To reveal yourself. Bako looked almost impressed. Almost. So what now? He asked. You kill me in this room and throw me in a mine shaft? No, Traoré replied. You're going to walk out of here. Alone. And you're going to watch what comes next. He pushed a tablet toward Bako. On it, a live stream. The Unity Pavilion. Full lights. Full broadcast. Every camera live. And on the stage? The list. Every name. Every charge. Footage of each betrayal. Audio. Transaction records. Photographs. All of it. Released to the nation. With a single banner headline. Ibrahim Traoré, the reckoning has begun. Bako's eyes narrowed. You're burning your entire political class. Your whole infrastructure. No, Traoré said. I'm pulling weeds before I plant a forest. He stood, walked slowly toward the cell door, and knocked once. It opened. 2 guards entered. Bako didn't resist. He didn't look back. But before he crossed the threshold, Traoré added, Midnight changed everything, Colonel. Not for me. For you. Above, in the Unity Pavilion, the broadcast reached its crescendo. Citizens across Burkina Faso, from Ouagadougou to the smallest village without paved roads, watched the live stream on radios, phones, old televisions wired with car batteries. Gasps turned to roars. In some neighborhoods, cheers echoed in the street. In others, fists clenched with rage. But no one, turned away. Inside the hall, those whose names weren't on the list didn't cheer. They didn't smile. They knew something deeper. The list wasn't a purge. It was a test. Traoré had left gaps. On purpose. The flash drive didn't contain everything. The true database was encrypted in satellite archives only he controlled. Which meant the next names would depend on one thing. Behavior. Who scrambled? Who fled? Who stayed? It was no longer about the traitors of the past. It was about the loyalists of tomorrow. Meanwhile, Traoré returned to his private office, bare, quiet, and smelling faintly of leather and dust. He poured water into a chipped mug and stared out the window into the night. A knock. His advisor, Fatou Sanou, head of counterintelligence, entered. The boy confessed, she said. He gave up every node. Your instincts were right. Traoré nodded. And the military? Fractured, she replied. But watching. They don't trust the ministers anymore, but they're not sure if they should trust you either. That's exactly where I want them. She arched a brow. Too much comfort, he said, and they sleep. Too much fear, and they revolt. But uncertainty makes men think twice before they move. He sat back down, exhaling. Fatou looked at him, carefully. You know this makes you a target now, she said. I was already a target, he replied. Now I'm just harder to hit. She smiled. You should sleep. The storm isn't over. Traoré sipped the water. No. Then, as if to himself, it's only just begun. The nation has seen the names. The people are rising. But what if the real enemy, the one even Traoré didn't expect, is still out there, and already planning their move? The next morning, the city didn't wake, it stirred like an animal testing its wounds. Shops opened slower. Soldiers at checkpoints stood taller, more alert. Everywhere, screens replayed the previous night's broadcast. People pointed, argued, cheered. The traitors' names had become street names, each one cursed or praised depending on who said it. Traoré sat at a long wooden table inside a secured conference room beneath the National Assembly. A hand-picked team, half civilian, half military, stood behind closed doors with him. No ministers. No ambassadors. Only believers. Fatou Sinu stood at the far end, speaking crisply. Bako's network extended deeper than expected. 2 colonels have vanished. 3 border agents failed to report. Someone opened a corridor in the east. Meaning what? Traoré asked. Meaning someone's leaving, she replied. Fast. A map lit up behind her. Highlighted, the Fada corridor, near the Niger border. Sparse terrain. Tribal loyalties split. Historically neutral. Convenient for those running from justice. Traoré folded his hands. What about the names not released? Still secure, Fatou confirmed. Triple encrypted. Only accessible with your biometrics and mine. He nodded. Then it's time we moved to the next phase. A young officer cleared his throat nervously. Sir, the people believe you now. They're behind you. But the political structure is decapitated. Who governs while you rebuild? Traoré looked him dead in the eye. We don't govern, he said. We lead. Governance will grow from trust, not from recycled hands wearing new gloves. Fatou smiled faintly at that. But outside, the embers weren't done glowing. In a villa far from the capital, deep in the scrublands of eastern Burkina Faso, a satellite phone buzzed. A woman answered. Her accent was crisp French, but her eyes were hard, Malian intelligence, exiled years ago, now hired by anyone with enough money and a motive. Yes. A voice replied. The purge has begun. But he left holes. It's time. Is he vulnerable? Not yet, the voice said. But he will be. There's one man left. She nodded slowly, walking out onto a cracked patio overlooking the desert. Who? Silence. Then the name. The one even she didn't expect. Back in Ouagadougou, Traoré sat alone in a makeshift chapel built beside a demolished school, the same one the ambushed convoy was heading toward. The children's names were etched in a brass plate nailed to the wall. No cameras. No soldiers. Just him, and memory. Fatou entered quietly. There's something you need to see. She handed him a file. He opened it. His eyes scanned the page once. Then twice. He didn't speak for nearly a minute. This is real. We verified it 3 times. Traoré stared out the window. The name on the page was burned into his bones. Adama Traoré. His older cousin. His blood. A man he hadn't seen in over a year. A man who vanished during the first rebel uprising, and was presumed killed. But now, Adama wasn't dead. He was funding the rebellion. And worse, he had been working with Colonel Bako. Feeding him information about Ibrahim's movements. His guards. His instincts. His mind. This, Ibrahim whispered, was never about politics. No, Fatou agreed. It was about power. And family. Traoré stood slowly. Where is he now? We believe he crossed into Mali. He has protection. Maybe foreign backing. Traoré's jaw tightened. Then relaxed. Prepare the message. To the people? Fatou asked. To him. Later that night, the people of Burkina Faso watched a second broadcast. But this time, there were no names. No lists. Only Ibrahim Traoré, standing on a quiet road in front of the schoolhouse ruins. The wind lifted dust around his boots. He looked straight into the camera. I have given you the truth, he said. But truth is not enough. Now comes the reckoning within. Not for those in suits or in ministries. But in our families. In our homes. In our blood. He held up a single photograph. Of two young boys. Smiling. Arms around each other. This is me, he said. And this is my brother. He didn't say the name. But everyone watching understood. I loved him. I trusted him. I would have died for him. He paused. And now, if I must, I will fight him. Silence. Then. If betrayal can live inside blood, then loyalty must rise from spirit. Not title. Not tribe. Spirit. That is the Burkina Faso we will build. One storm at a time. He dropped the photo. Turned. And walked into the wind. Final twist plus closing beat. In the shadows of a foreign embassy, a foreign intelligence officer whispered to his superior. He's no longer a target. Why? Because now, he's something else. What? The officer smiled. A revolution.